And we would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The chair's announcement: this meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 20, and on March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed a supplemental 2023 budget bill allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through March 31st, 2025. This meeting is being recorded. I'd like to open the regular meeting, and the item of business is the approval of the minutes of December 12, 2024, which have been circulated to the members.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Tim Caton, is there a second, please?
Dale Weber.
Hugh Morton, second.
Hugh Morton, second. Is there any discussion? Any changes? Hearing none. Calling for a vote. Hugh.
Hugh Morton, aye.
John.
John Bell, aye.
Dale.
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah.
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton.
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie. Tim Gillespie. I know he's there.
Probably
How about
muted.
Mark?
now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Aye.
Mark, are you there? Mark doesn't seem to be there. Betty Slade, aye, that's unanimous. Okay, we're moving right along. I'm closing the regular meeting and opening the public hearing to discuss projects forwarded by CPC to the public hearing tonight for recommendation to town meeting in 2025. We've discussed all of these projects. Tonight we will hear brief, anything actually that the community, that the project managers would like to talk about, and if there are any questions that any of you have. So the first item, the first project is from the Westport Affordable Housing Trust to allocate funds for the housing office for rehabilitation, rehab of buildings, and for land acquisition reserves. And they're asking for $300,000. And my question is, does anybody have any questions for the people who are representing the Affordable Housing Trust? And I believe that's Bob Barbosa. I think I saw Leonardi.
Here.
Anybody else? Is Craig there? No. So Leonardi and Bob Barbosa are representing. Okay. So Hugh, do you have a question?
Thank you. My question is simple. There are the three funds that are mentioned here with the proposed additions. I'd like to know what are the present amounts in each of those funds.
So the first would be what is available in the housing office funds.
Yes.
Yes. Bob, do you know?
I would think there'd be a balance of about $25,000 in the housing office account. The balance in the land acquisition fund is $400,000 at present. And the rehab program is, I would guess 35 or 40,000.
Let me clarify.
Yes, yes.
The prehab, that's a new one. So
Yes.
there's two different rehab programs that we've been working with. One is the prehab which were no CPA funds actually. This one, this what we call prehab with a P, is to work directly with existing deed-restricted affordable homes. So the idea is to help people down the road or whenever that they already own deed-restricted affordable homes that may need help maintaining those properties to assist them with funding. So this funding is totally new, the $60,000.
So is it correct that the amount in the land acquisition is only 600,000? I mean, for 400,000, I think you said?
It's 400, but 200,000 are coming up that haven't been
Yes,
or haven't arrived. So we're planning on working with $600,000. Yes.
yes. So there's 600,000 that will be available already.
Will
That's
be. We
because
don't have the CPA money yet this year.
well,
But it's committed. So we can.
Could you, when you say that, you need to explain what you mean. You mean it's still in the accounting office? The money has been allocated by the town meeting to the Affordable Housing Trust. You just haven't accessed it yet.
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. And
Trying to understand. So Tom, there's 600 now available. They're asking for an additional 2, which
Correct.
after the balls have stopped bouncing, will make a total of 8. Is that right?
correct.
Thank you.
And the 25,000 in housing, is that allocated? Do you think that is? I mean, do you need another 40,000 in addition to that 25,000?
Typically, that's the budget that we work with, the 40,000, sometimes a little bit less, depending on the ongoing programs. The 25 that are there, we still have through June to run the office and all those expenses.
Yes. So there's several more months, Hugh, before
Yeah.
it ends. Okay. Mark Schmidt? Can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, my question is, has the Housing Trust identified any projects which they will use any of these land acquisition and development funds or anything for the prehab funds?
So are there projects for prehab and projects for the land acquisition funds? Go ahead, Lenardi.
So the land acquisition and development, we issue an RFP, a request for proposals, through an open procurement process per law, Chapter 30B. And the deadline was a couple of weeks ago. We did receive a proposal that we are just in the process of reviewing. So we'll see what come up out of that. As far as the prehab, we haven't advertised the program yet because we don't have the funds yet. So we don't want to have people, interested in the program that we don't have funds. But in the past, we have received a couple of calls of people saying, hey, such and such owns an affordable home, and we would like to know if there are programs out there to help people fix their home. The way we are designing the program is that we're going to give a priority to homes that had been created with trust/CPA funds. And then we may consider proposal from other deed-restricted affordable home. It could be any other 40Bs or other programs. So the idea is to help people that already owns a deed-restricted affordable home to stay in their home, particularly those that the trust and CPA has invested funds on it.
And
Well-
they have to meet the income requirements also.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. That's something on the guidelines that we want to work with because the restriction is still on the property, even though hopefully the homeowners might be making more money. One of the things with the deed-restricted affordable home is that contrary to your regular market rate home, is that to borrow money against your property is more limited. Your equity is actually smaller because you are bound by the resale price. So that might be some of the challenges that some of these homeowners will find.
Mark, does that answer your questions?
Well, just to follow up, for your RFP you mentioned, is that targeted for a specific property that you have in mind? And is that what these acquisition funds would go towards?
So it's not a particular property, it's for an ideal parcel, right? So we're looking for a parcel that may be able to accommodate around 30 units. And, it's up to the proponent to come up with the arrangement of the sale, or whether, one portion can be preserved as an open space and still under the ownership of the proponent, and the actual developable site can be purchased by the trust. So what we have is, the condition is that it has to be within the town of Westport. So the new units will count towards the SHI. Yeah.
That RFP has been out there for quite a while.
Yes, we put it for 60, almost 90 days to give people a little bit of a change. Yeah. And
So-
we advertised it through the paper. We did the legal advertising that is required by law. We also distributed to real estate agents, and as much as we could. Yeah.
Deborah?
Yes, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on the question that Hugh had asked, because I'm trying to understand what the timing and as of dates for the various numbers we're talking about. So when you asked Bob Barboza, what is in the fund now, what does that mean? What date are we talking about? The fund as of what date? And then he said that they still haven't received 200. Is that 200 from last year, or is that the 200 that's on the table for this grant? I don't understand what the date of this accounting means. I'm trying to just tie this number together. When Hugh said that when the ball stops bouncing, they end up with, I think, 800,000, but I can't tie out that number. So starting with Bob's listed 25,000 for existing housing, land acquisition 400, rehab 40, and prehab 60. That's as of when?
As of January 1st, the money in that account is $400,000.
Oh,
Anytime now, we should get this year's CPA allotment transferred into our account, but that,
This
And
and that
fiscal year,
request is
this
300.
fiscal year, Deborah, it's a fiscal year. So they haven't used all the fiscal year funding that they
Okay.
had. Okay, they haven't, they go there until June
Right,
30th.
June 30th is the fiscal year end. I get that. And then when you
That
said the
answers
200,
that.
the 200 hasn't come in yet. That's for the fiscal year ending in June of 24 or 25?
25.
25. That's what's on the table right now.
Right.
Got it. Okay. All right. So
I'm
it's
just going to stick my head in.
200.
I think the answer is, but again, I need to clarify. If we do nothing, there should be $600,000 in the account as of June 30th, right?
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
that's
What we do would add to, that number is en route and committed from past appropriations.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Got it.
John?
Thank you.
John- Thank you.
I was
Deborah.
just going
John,
to, you
just
just,
a sec. Go ahead,
you
John.
you just said what I was going to say, so I don't need to say anything.
So I wanted, okay, thank you, John. I wanted to add that last meeting, when we discussed these larger units and the people who are interested in financial help, Bob Barbosa, you said that the majority of people who live in Nookwachoke are over 55. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
I don't think I said that, no.
You said something like it. Because we were talking about, you said two things. One was that most of your inquiries are from older people, seniors. And we also ask about and I thought you said, and I don't, that, or do you know, if the people in are over, or the people in Nookwood are over 55, at least one person in the family?
We don't know for sure the age of the people. I know when we attended the lottery picks for Nookwood, I'd say it was about 50-50 over age 60, people over age 60, and 50% people under age 60.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
But
John?
Nookwood's not age restricted. It's
No,
just,
I know. Yeah. John, okay, I think,
I had no comment.
okay, okay, are there any other questions? Bob and Leonardi, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, thank you so much for your questions and for
Okay.
listening.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like a motion to pass this for consideration. As you know, the process is, maybe Deborah doesn't know, and Tim, Kate, that we don't approve a project right now for going forward. What we do is we pass it to after the public hearing. At that time, we make the decision to recommend to town meeting. So for now, what we would do is just make a recommendation to pass it for consideration for approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Tim Gillespie says.
Second?
Dale Weber will second it.
Are there any questions about the motion? Okay, let's move ahead. We'll vote on it. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
John?
John Bell, aye.
Dale?
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah?
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton?
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie?
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark?
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade? Aye, that's unanimous. We will, after the public hearing, we will consider this for passing on to town meeting. The second,
I have a question, Betty.
sure,
Betty, I have a question. When is town meeting?
May.
We don't have an exact date yet.
No,
Okay.
okay.
So it's, yeah,
I
it's
mean,
usually
God
May.
knows they could change it, but it's usually May.
Yeah,
usually
right.
May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's May 6th,
May 6th,
I think.
Okay, thank you.
somewhere around there usually.
Mhm.
Okay, the second project, we get into historic preservation. It's the Westport Grange. Here we go. Preserving Westport Grange, number 181, historical records, documents, and framed artifacts for $8,225. Just wanted to state here that the $500 was reduced because they will not be purchasing a scanner. And I wanted to say that the Historical Commission considered this project and gave it their approval that it is preservation of historic documents. You know, we, just for a couple of people, I'll say that there are certain qualifications or requirements in order to say that a project is historic and is under our historic preservation possibilities. And it all is determined by either the past actions of the historical commissions or the present actions. So in this case, the Grange itself is historic, but the documents within it were never declared as historic. And so with that declaration, they are now considered historic. That's how it works. So they did that this previous Monday, and they sent an official letter, which you all have received. So again, let's start with, are there any questions about this project? Okay, it looks like that we know what the project is. Any of the managers want to say anything?
This is Cindy Wilson. I am the director of the food pantry in the basement of the Grange, but I'm also the secretary of the Grange. And I appreciate being able to talk to the Historic Commission earlier this week. And I had not been very familiar with the Grange before this, but having looked through the documents, they are handwritten documents going back from 1890 to the current time that document important events that happened and people that were involved in events it was a gathering place. And at one point I had over 300 members, and it really kind of has a lot of historical insight into the Westport community that you won't find other places. And I think I appreciate the opportunity to have it be archived so that we have that, and so that we have that history to look back on.
Okay. A couple of things I wanted to add is that the people from the Mormon Church will be scanning those documents. It's one.
Yeah.
And secondly, I spoke to Cindy today about an agreement, a grant agreement. When we do private projects, we need grant agreements, and the grant agreement is basically that these documents will be available for the public to see. I
confirmed with Barbara and with the Grange board earlier today that would be fine. But the documents that we're intending to provide to archive, we're not archiving any of the ritual material. It's all the handwritten documents that are Westport specific, and they see no problem with that.
Okay, any other questions? May I have a motion to recommend this to be passed to the regular meeting?
I would move that we advance it to town meeting for consideration.
Not town meeting, to the after the public hearing. Tim?
Yes,
So we'll have our public hearing and we advance it for the discussion after the public hearing for consideration for recommendation at town meeting. We have to do it that way because we have to look at the funding that we have available.
okay. Well, I would move that we move it towards the discussion at the end of this meeting. Consider approval and all that stuff.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
I will second the
Bureaucracy.
rephrase motion.
Hugh?
I second the rephrase motion.
Okay. Okay, let's vote. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
John?
John Bell, aye.
Dale?
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah?
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton?
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie?
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark?
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty? Slade, aye. That is unanimous. We will consider it in the next part of this meeting. All righty. The next project is the Howland Hall Community Center Preservation and Rehabilitation. This has changed. They have reduced their ask from, I believe it's 450 to 298,000. And I think that someone from one of the managers is ready to discuss that, correct?
Sure.
Sure being
Who,
Buzz?
this is Tim
Buzz?
Gillespie.
Buzz? Are you
Is
there?
Buzz here?
Buzz, yeah, there you go. Okay. I don't know who's going to be speaking, Laura or Buzz.
It is me, and I have just gotten briefly kicked off. Hello, I'm Laura Oliveira. I'm the incoming chair of the Westport Point Board of Trustees. We have done extensive renovations on our application based on the committee's excellent feedback from the December meeting. We have focused the application entirely on the Howland Hall Community Center project and only on phase 1, which includes the exterior restoration, and phase 1B, which is the accessibility to the Howland Hall Community Center at all levels. The phase 2 of the project is going to be the interior restoration, handicap bathrooms, HVAC, a small kitchen, and acoustics. And the church is meeting next week to kick off a capital campaign to raise funds for that phase of the project. What we have estimates from R.L. Valois that were done in early December, which are presented in the application. And we have also contacted 2 local contractors, Ken Pacheco and Brian Sicard, to come in and do additional estimates. They have agreed to do so, but that work has not yet been completed. Phase 1A, which is the exterior renovation, has not changed since the December meeting. That part of the project replaces the concrete steps on the south side. It replaces the original single pane windows, which many are inoperable and they are certainly not energy efficient. And it also provides much needed new cedar shingling. That is approximately $140,000, and that price hasn't changed from December. Where the changes have occurred is in phase 1B. Phase 1B is the accessibility component of the project. That is 2 entrances, one on the lower level south side to just make the door accessible for a wheelchair-bound individual. The major component is the construction of a small addition on the south side, closer to the church at grade. It would bring people in to the main mid-level. There would be a staircase up, but the most important component for accessibility is a platform lift. The platform lift would go up 1/2 level to the main Howland Hall, or would go down 1/2 level from the midpoint to the offices that include the small library, small meeting room, and a room rented by small businesses. What the total cost of phase 1B is $204,000. However, we have discussed the option of taking the cost of a new lift, which is $47,000, and possibly considering finding, hopefully, a used lift in excellent condition that would save some funding. And that is where the difference is. The total cost of phases 1A and 1B with the lift is $345,000. Eliminating the cost of the lift is the $298,000 figure.
Excellent.
I want to thank the members of the committee for their input. It was invaluable as we revised the application. And I also want to thank Dale and Deborah, Tim Gillespie, and Mark for braving the cold weather on Tuesday for the walkthrough of the facility. I'm happy to answer any questions. And there are other members of the church here as well.
John?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
So I couldn't be there Tuesday. I was sick in bed, so.
Oh, gosh,
Yeah,
it's going
I couldn't get out,
around.
Yeah, but my question's gonna be, it says on the application that it's on the National Register. I couldn't find it on the National Register. I could find the church. I
Yep,
couldn't
it
find
is
Howland Hall.
connected to the church, John, and that's why it's on the register.
All right, I could not find that. I could find the church only, and like even the Mass one, it says it has the church, and then it's part of it says in addition to it. All right.
And
So
that's
my
the
question
addition.
would be really to Betty. Betty, are we really determining this by the local historic commission to be considered a significant history, archaeology, architecture, or culture to the city of town, as the application clarifies? Are we basing our decision for historical funds based on the historical commission?
It always is that way. That is how have you looked at that diagram on the website?
Yes,
Okay.
that's where I got that wording from.
Yeah, so that's right. And they have And as you know, town council said, because it got a certificate of appropriateness, that's very good, but it would be very good if there was a second statement saying that it is significant, that that building is significant. We got that statement from the Historical Commission.
I just wanted
It's
to
written.
clarify that.
I also, I know and have seen on the edition on the National Register. I checked that too. You have to read the whole thing and then it says it, you know, but it doesn't show up in the picture. That's the problem. So I am recommending to the Historical Commission that they do the write-up of this building and add it, because that does cause confusion. But
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah?
I just want to add to this commentary, because we had extensive discussion at the Historical Commission when this was taken up at two different meetings. One was to do the certificate of appropriateness when Kit came before us and explained the entire program. And then we had a further discussion to make sure we're following all the rules related to CPA funding. So we went through the little flow chart that Betty just referenced. We checked it against whether there's a legal issue because it's a church versus, you know, and it's not a church, it's Howland Hall, not a church, so that fit. So we went through a whole analysis, and you can look at our minutes about how we came to our decision, and it was a unanimous vote. So we felt very comfortable recommending, and Garrett Stuck wrote a very comprehensive letter that we issued to the CPC. So I think we covered all of our bases. We feel very comfortable making that recommendation.
Thank you. Hugh?
Well, I just want to offer for what is good into the pot, my reaction to the legal issues. It doesn't represent anything formal, et cetera, but my thinking may be of some value to you. It is a gray area of what can be done with CPC funds for religious/historic buildings. Issue number one is money is fungible. So therefore, the argument goes that if money comes in to do an historic preservation part of a building, which is also used for religious purposes, does that mean it's in essence a contribution to the religious side, because money that would have been used for preservation can now be used for those purposes? Well, because money is fungible, in my view, that means you can't do it, period. That's not the reasoning of the cases we know about. So I put that one aside. You can do it. It's a matter of how and when. And in my view, the difficult issues arise with religious imagery. Take stained glass windows, for instance. It's a combination, the historic, the religious, how do you pair it apart, et cetera. As I understand this building, and I've been there years ago, my perception is a fairly bare meeting hall. And that being the case, I don't see the religious image issue. And therefore, I conclude that it's historic preservation of an historic structure, and the religious part of it falls out because it doesn't really come into play. That's not a formal opinion of anybody. I am a member of the bar, but that's my reaction in reading the material.
Thank you, Hugh. It's also interesting to note, we found the original plans for the building, and it did say Howland Hall Community Center. So from the very onset, it was definitely for community use.
And another CPA requirement is that it be open to the public. And as you've seen in the write-up in our discussion, it's been used by the public consistently, and it was used by the town as a school in 1973. So it meets those requirements. And the final requirement, Laura and Buzz, is that there be a grant agreement. And I think we discussed that. And the grant agreement basically will say that, as it does with all the others, that any changes that are made with CPA funding cannot be changed again without approval from the Historical Commission.
Mhm.
So that is that is the rule. And so that meets that requirement, and we will be asking you to, the town will be asking you to sign such an agreement. And we can discuss the agreement. They could vary, and the wording is important, and we will be giving that to you.
Of course.
Does anybody else have any other comments about this? So I just wanted to, someone asked me today if I should not vote because I've been so involved in this project. And I would think if that was the case, Tim Gillespie could never vote for anything. So I thought about it. And I am not a member of the board of the church or anything like that. I don't even go very often, but I do support it. But I still think that I don't think it's a conflict of interest if I vote.
I would agree with you, Betty. That is not a conflict in my view.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the committee for the tour we had the other day. And I commend you for trying to save money by looking for a used platform list. I think that lift. I think that's it's a challenge, but you might get lucky and find that. And I guess if you don't, then you're either coming back to us for more funds or you're going to raise the money yourself. But in any event, I think it's a good application that you've put together.
So I would like to mention that we have been hearing from the managers of the Sanford School project, and they seem to be wanting to go back to a ramp rather than a lift. And they said they had a lift. So that might be a possibility. And then we can talk to people. But Buzz?
Yes, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank the committee for its consideration, but then also for coming out on the cold day to view the scene and your patience in walking through the whole place on a cold day. So I very much appreciate the attention.
Well, we appreciate your looking at the application and coming up with a new one. That's, I think, Tim Caton.
Yeah. Some of the recommendation, Laura, is looking at some of the bigger school departments. Because there's a lot of times when they're doing upgrades and they may be under the laws a little bit more stricter to what they have to do as far as elevators and things like that, and they had lifts. So, you know, maybe through your contractors or whatever you're doing, maybe perhaps some of the school districts, the biggest school districts, maybe Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton, maybe.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So may I have a motion
So move.
to?
Second. Tim Gillespie seconds Hugh's motion.
To pass this project to the next portion of the meeting today
That's
for
correct.
consideration to recommend to town meeting. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let us vote. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton,
Tim Caton, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you so much.
More than
John
welcome.
Bell, aye.
Okay, the next we into open space and recreation. The Westport Youth Athletic Association has requested $150,000 for an additional senior league field at the WYA fields that now exist. We had an extensive discussion last time. Does anybody have any further questions on this project? Does anybody, Mark?
Yeah, sorry. Just to step back, could somebody remind us how much CPA has put into this project in the past in total? Not this project, but the whole ball field area.
Oh,
A lot.
Is that for me? Is that
yeah, do you know, yeah, Ken, are you there?
yeah, I am here. Including the land purchase, we're over 2 million.
2 million, 2.1 million, I believe it
Yeah.
was. Mhm.
Yeah.
Over a period since 2002.
Right.
Ken,
It
is
was
that
the-
total project or total CPC? Because there are
The
private
CPA,
funds as
CPA
well.
funding, CPA
CPA
funding.
funding.
CPA, right.
The project is much larger than that.
Yes.
There was so
Okay.
much, contribution in kind,
Right.
huge,
Right.
including engineering,
Yeah.
all
Engineering.
the engineering.
Yeah.
Oh, have we got any winning teams?
I can tell you that the first year the fields were open, the girls softball teams won their division.
Great.
All right.
I mean, you might want to just say a few words, Ken, about what's there
Yeah.
and what it is that you're offering. Just a few words. I think it'd be good
Yeah.
to remind us.
Absolutely happy to. So it's been in the back of our minds for a while that, we have 4 functioning baseball fields, 2 baseball, 2 softball fields. Then we have the all-purpose field, which is massive, like 600 feet by 600 feet, which was originally designed for soccer. However, through the years, soccer had to secure their own land on Sanford Road. So we've had all this extra space along with the 4 functioning fields where we've been playing ball. We've known in the back of our minds that down the road we would need a senior league field. Senior league fields, longer baselines, longer distance to the pitcher mounds. Was never really a priority, but now we're looking at what's going on at the high school in town. And, depending who you talk to in town, we may or may not have that high school in the future. If that high school goes away, then there is no senior league field for the older age kids. So we would be out. And we are Westport Youth Athletics, and we have all the space. So just this fall, late summer, I should say, Jim Potter, who's on the call with us, his company offers grants to groups like ours, and he was offered to apply for $100,000 grant. Significant. Our original field costs were much higher because we had to tree, we had to stump, we had to clear, we had to level. We can get this senior league field built on the cheap. So we thought we should at least come to CPC and ask, because it's great opportunity to secure another field for the older kids, and then baseball would be completely contained at our facility and not have to rely on the high school.
Mhm.
Jim, do you want to say anything? Jim Potter?
Yeah, no, thank you again. And Ken, you explained it very well. And our biggest concern from WIA and also the Westport Baseball League is, if we lose those fields at the old high school, there's one field at the new middle high school right now that's being used, that would be used by the middle school, the junior varsity team, and the varsity team, because the middle school and the junior varsity team are actually using the old high school. So when it goes away, if that happens, then, now we don't have any place for those teams to play, but then our instructional league gets pushed out even further. We're kind of looking at this almost like a situation similar to what soccer is doing right now, where, the varsity is playing at the current middle high school, and they're also using the junior varsity, the new field on Sanford Road. So I think it's a benefit overall to the town. And as Ken was saying, I have an opportunity to pursue funding, an amount of $100,000 from the company that I work for. A couple of the main things that they're looking for was to make sure that, we were pursuing additional funds, which is with CPC. Also have engineering in place. We're working on that right now. We've given PAR the notice to proceed to start the engineering so we can get this process going. So we're trying to get some momentum with it, and I think it's a real good benefit. So appreciate the time.
Hugh?
This may sound a little strange to say, but it seems to me that this would be helpful because it may help disposing of the fields at the old high school, if that turns out to be a good thing to do in an overall deal with the old high school. I have no idea what's going to happen there. There are lots of thoughts, but this might make it easier a good deal, which has a side effect of eliminating the field because there's a replacement. I know that sounds kind of strange, but I think it would be useful to have this as a backup, if nothing else.
Right.
Yeah,
That is our concern.
That's
Yeah, that's our concern, Hugh. Absolutely. And if it goes away, if the town decided to make a deal this year, I wouldn't go that quick, but if it happened to something this year, and then we don't have that other field, I think we'd be crunched and we wouldn't have that space for it. So I think
it's good in its own merits, but I'm just saying.
No, absolutely.
Connection may facilitate what otherwise would be more difficult to deal with because it would entail the loss of the field that is used for this and that, but otherwise it would be a good deal. So this may like a little easier if that comes up. So I'm all in favor.
Tim Gillespie?
I would move we advance this particular project to the end of our meeting so we can discuss whether or not to move it on to town meeting.
Is there a second?
John Bell will second that.
Before we move on, with a motion, a second, I'd also like to reiterate what I understood Ken to say at the last meeting, that there are a lot of play opportunities at the WYA fields for other activities. And they offered, Timothy Gillespie, they offered that the Recreation Commission could work with them on some of the projects that you all were talking about. You're in for a specific phase up at the Bicentennial, but there will be other things, and if you could put them at that place and not have to develop a place, it would be very cost saving and very useful for the town, including walking paths. I understand you have walking paths.
We do.
Around. So there are lots going on there that needs to be advertised a little bit more, Ken. But I think that it's 2.1 million, if you think about it and look at other projects around the state, is not a lot of money.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
for CPC, a couple of years of CPA funding, but it's been a very long time.
Right.
Okay, so there's anybody else have any comments?
Well, I just wanted to say, let's remember when they wanted to put the fields at the old campgrounds, what the estimate of that price was.
4 million.
Yeah.
Right. I thought of it too, John. Okay, so we have a motion and second before us. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
John?
John Bell, aye.
Dale?
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah?
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton?
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie?
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark?
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next is the Recreation Committee Park Improvement Project, the Bicentennial Playground Phase 2, 250,000. Tim, do you want to say anything? Tim Gillespie?
Dana's here somewhere. Dana, where are you?
Is she?
She was.
Hello, I am here.
Yes.
Good
Yes,
to
she is.
see you.
Hi, Dana.
Hi. Yes, thank you so much to all of you for considering our application. So our application is, as Betty mentioned, about our improving Bicentennial Park as a whole. We have approached CPC before for the actual playground structure at Bicentennial Park, and I wanted to assure you we are moving forward with that. We have consulted with 3 different playground companies and are considering their designs and their quotes and working currently with that. So we're confident that's going to happen this year. So we wanted to just keep moving and go to phase 2. So phase 2 is talked about in this document, and it includes demolishing the old skate park. There you can see some images of the current state of the skate park. It is in bad disrepair. It does not look good at all. And I would encourage any of you, if you have time and are to go by that park and get out of your car and walk around that space. It's a fairly large piece of land, and there's just so many different things we can do to improve it. So we want to demolish that skate park and prep the land for creating some kind of new sports or entertainment area back there. So that would not happen in phase 2. We would keep that for phase 3. And we're currently working at surveying the public about what they would want back there. We did survey people at the most recent West Mac PTO holiday fair, as well as our holiday tree lighting. And I still have to review all of the different questionnaires, but the 2 that stand out the most are a new skate park. A lot of people said they just want a new, nicer skate park. But then some people also like the idea of some kind of splash pad, which some of these playground companies do offer. So we would have to look at those quotes and possibilities there too in phase 3. So the other part of phase 2 would be, we had the idea to create paved paths around the perimeter of that park, which again is fairly large, and also sectioning through the middle somehow. It could be like just one path through the middle so that you can get to the various areas of the park, or maybe we could do like a crisscross sorts through the park. But the thinking there was that it would be an easy way to make the park more wheelchair accessible, make it available for those who want to just walk and jog and get a little exercise, maybe kids learning how to ride their bikes or roller skate, and in general could be a nice feature. The other part of phase 2 would be to improve the front of the park. That first picture, or actually all those pictures there kind of show the front. And currently there's no marked wheelchair parking there. Not on the ground, not with a sign. So we definitely want to add that. We want to improve that front fence. The perimeter, the whole area, it has like some stone walls and some woods in the back. So we think we would only need a fence in the front, obviously to be there for a blockage for cars and things. And then also just in general, some new signs that would be a little more attractive and in keeping with the modern way parks are kind of presented now. And then the other aspects are improving the basketball courts. We would repave them and paint new lines, possibly add a new basketball hoops, nets, backdrop, or back board, I mean. There's just cracking, fading. It hasn't been redone or refreshed in a long time, so we thought we'd do that. The other possibility we discussed, and Tim kind of helped fool around with a bit of a design where we could possibly add more parking to the space if we got rid of one of the basketball courts. That's in the very last page there, Tim, if you want to kind of show that. This is, and sorry, it's on the side, but you can see where the cars are there. So that would maybe expand the parking opportunities if we just had one basketball court. But that's kind of still to be debated and talked about. Some people on our commission feel like there's plenty of parking in front and on the street, and that people in the weekends or off school hours could still park at Macumber and walk over to the park. So anyway, that's up for discussion. And then the final part of phase 2 is to install a covered pavilion. And I kind of added that little square there as an example on that diagram. But you can picture a covered pavilion would be a very nice feature for families and people who want to do birthday parties, family reunions, events, and be able to have a picnic and enjoy being together while also enjoying the various amenities of the park space. And our thinking there too was that many communities, what they do when they have a covered pavilion is they allow people to rent it out, similarly to how people are currently renting out our annex gym. And that way they're reserving the space for their event, and they could get a form proving such at a fee, a small fee, just like we do with the gym. And that would be an additional revenue stream that could possibly help the recreation department and in turn help us to kind of upkeep the pavilion itself, whether we need to hire a landscaper or if we need to, look at how maybe trash is handled or those kinds of things. And then some of those other example pictures were just possibilities of like, well, what could we do instead of the skate park? One idea was tennis courts, pickleball courts, bocce courts, and then a couple images of like really nice skate park or basketball area.
Okay. What? Is that it, Dana?
I guess I'll just say that, so in terms of budget, the project with the annex playground really gave us more idea of what things cost. So right now we think it would be an average of $250,000 for phase 2. And that would include all of the things that I had discussed with what we might want to do, with a contingency of a possible additional $50,000, which is including that $250,000 in case estimated costs come in higher.
Okay.
So I welcome any questions you may have.
Hugh?
I just think that I need to recuse myself.
Okay. Do you plan, Dana, to have these forums? Did you say you're going to ask for people's opinions?
Yes. So I got quite many surveys back. I mean, a huge handful actually. I have to still go through all those and kind of create a chart of like how many people said this. But on the little survey, it was given some options and then also an other, if they had an idea, like we had a few people say they'd love a dog park. I don't know if that's something we would look at or consider, but we could definitely talk with the Recreation Commission about that too. So the other way I could do a survey is definitely through SurveyMonkey or something online. I haven't yet done that, as that pertains mostly to phase 3. So right now we're kind of concentrating on phase 2 as well as phase 1 still.
And what about security?
So in general, playgrounds and park spaces are open to the public. A lot of towns have park staff and maintenance staff to kind of help oversee that. Unfortunately, we don't really have that in town. But someone on our commission has been brought it up with Jim Hartnett about, well, if say the highway department is short-staffed and doesn't have the time to help with the general landscaping of just mowing and trimming and those kinds of things, can we work it in the budget so that the recreation can hire someone, just on a seasonal basis to take care of those needs? And then that might in turn, if we are able to rent out the pavilion, maybe again, that could help with that.
Well, when I was speaking of security, I basically was talking about cameras or something, because I know in the past it was an issue. It might be better now than it used to be. We were, years ago, we gave some money, I think, Tim, town meeting voted money for this park, but there was a lot of vandalism.
I think cameras are, we've talked about cameras. I don't think it's a terrible idea there. The technology is really advanced and it's not expensive.
Yes.
It's not really prohibitive. So I think we definitely should consider that.
It's definitely something we can look into. I know the town recently installed cameras within the buildings. So I can maybe ask, how they did that and if maybe these parts could be included.
Okay.
I had a quick question. This is Cindy Wilson from the Grange earlier, but I'm also on the Recreation Commission with Dana and Tim. And I think that I fully support this opportunity. With the new playground there, the rest of the park is really going to look much worse than it currently does. And I think with the new playground and bringing a lot of people in to see that, I think it'll be a very positive to the town and to the Recreation Commission to clean up some of the stuff that's been neglected and kind of have a clean slate to envision what comes next, rather than waiting until we get to the stage 3.
So one of the things that we've seen around Massachusetts with CPA funding is that recreation is very popular. It is people really like it. So you're coming in for a phase now, but you can possibly come back for more if you really find that people in the town want it. You let us know that. Mark?
Everyone's been very excited. Everyone's been very, very excited about the
yes
at the annex.
The playgrounds.
And we're looking forward to and have a lot of great plans for Bicentennial Park. But as we're planning that and thinking about what we're going to put on the playground, looking at the rest of it and not knowing we don't have the funds to do all of it at once, we're just trying to think down the road.
Mark?
Yeah, I don't have a question about the funding, and I'm all in support of these recreational projects, the parks and the ball fields. But then you mentioned maintenance, and I was just wondering, does the maintenance of these parks and ball fields fall on the town? Is that the highway department that has to do the mowing and landscaping work?
I can speak for the 2 town playgrounds. When I started this position about 6 years ago, I was told that the maintenance man who oversees the town buildings mows and trims the annex playground. We've had some issues of the timeliness of that with some of the past employees, but the current maintenance man has been very good about it. And he's been working with me on that. And so I have no problem with the annex playground. With the Bicentennial playground, we've had issues of, from what I'm told, the highway department being short-staffed so that they don't have the time to get up there to mow or trim or and even take out the trash when we had trash barrels there. So those were removed because they just couldn't get to it, fast enough because people are just putting all their car trash in there and everything. So I think for now we're keeping the parks as, trash in, trash out. You bring your trash in, you take it out concept. And that is actually a very popular concept lately with parks because it's putting the ownership on the people who are using it to take care of their own things that they're bringing in. Now, if there's issues with the landscaping or mowing, that is something that we can look into to help take care of. And like I mentioned, we're currently talking with Jim about that in this current budget process. So hopefully we can get some funds allocated to that. And if not, then we might look into dipping into our recreation revolving account if the highway department can't do it. Because in the past, we've been told that they are supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, they are stretched, and that's what that was my concern, is that we're not adding more pressure to their workload because they're understaffed, chronically understaffed, and so anyway, we just have to be careful about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're not creating.
Sorry,
We're not creating more space that needs to be taken care of. We're just kind of making it more uniform, I think would be the vision.
Right. And if we have the rubberized surfacing, similar to what we have at the Annex Playground at the Bicentennial Playground, that will help immensely. And, you know, depending on what we do in the back, I don't envision there being grass in the back. So just mostly be the side areas around some of those features.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? If not, may I have a motion? Tim Gillespie, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I feel a little conflicted, but that's okay. I
No,
would
go ahead. John Bell.
I'll make the motion that we move it to the later part of the meeting for discussion or for voting.
Okay, is there a second?
Dale
I'll
Weber,
second
so, okay.
Dale Weber seconds, okay. Any other discussion? Let's move on. Hugh,
Hugh Morton abstains.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton,
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for what you all do. The last project is the Westport Biking Walking Path, South Coast Northern Scenic Greenway Feasibility Study, $12,000. Are there any questions? I think Gail is here. Are there any questions? All right, that seems like that we can vote.
I would move that we advance this particular project to the end of our meeting for discussion.
Okay, second, please.
And I will second that.
That's Dale.
Oh, Dale, yes.
Dale, second. All right, any discussion? Okay, Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton,
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Gail, did you have a question?
I did, thank you. I just have an update, if I may. Thank you, everybody, for approving this to move forward. I just wanted to say, in that grant application, we were looking for a community partner to manage the three municipalities. We have done that. We are moving forward as a 3-town Mass Trail grants that will be submitted February 1st. And we are in a memorandum of understanding with South Coast Bikeway Alliance project management. So this will be managed through SERPED with a consultant, and South Coast Bikeway decided to enter this management agreement with SERPED. It's through their comprehensive department, so it's not through our normal people we relate with, Jackie Jones and John Gray. However, they'll be part of the process. And so what the SERPED is agreeing to perform the services described, scope of services with assistance of the organization, exchange for compensation to move forward. And so I just wanted to keep that update in mind with you. Thank you for voting already, but just rest assured we have this moving forward with the community directorship of SERPED, and then Westport, Mike Burris will be the designated municipal officer.
Thank you, Gail. When we do the write-up for town meeting, we will discuss all of that with you. So we will have all that finalized for town meeting. The handout at town meeting is very important because that's the basis for the project going forward, what can be in it, what can't be in it. So thank you very much. So I'd like to close the did we vote on this? Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to close the public hearing and open the regular meeting, resume the regular meeting, and look at the available funds. You have received the information on available funds for CPC. And as you can see, we do have enough funds available to finance all of these projects. So you keeping that in mind, are there any questions about the available funds? Okay, so I would like to go to the number 3 to make the final recommendations of CPA projects for the town meeting warrant. And I'd like to see if we would like to do this on a 1-by-1 basis, which is what we normally do. But if anybody has any other suggestions, let me know.
Let's move on.
Okay, so the first, the question is, do we recommend the $300,000 for the Westport Affordable Housing Trust for the housing office, rehab, and land acquisition reserves? Is there a recommendation?
I recommend that we vote to advance.
Just one second. There's some questions, Tim, before that, I think. Okay, John Bell?
Yeah, my question, can we, is this up to discussion now, or?
Yes, we will discuss it.
I just felt when you asked how much money was in that account, and they still, and I forget the guy's name, told us 400,000. I don't know if that was misleading us, or if there was, he just didn't count the 200,000 that they got last year.
Okay, let me explain that. That is an issue of timing. And Deborah asked that question. There's still the Westport Housing Trust is handled very differently from other projects. There is a special account for them, which the accountant manage, and she does not release those funds right away. She holds those funds over the year and then releases them little by little. It's like a reserve. It's like our reserves. It's their reserves. So when you ask him that question, he answered it as what's in their accounts, their own accounts right now. But then when we discussed it, he said, yes, there's 600,000 that we will be receiving but haven't gotten yet. It's a matter of timing.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't misleading us.
Okay.
I understood what he, when the question was asked, I understood in his answer. That's why I went in and said, I think that it's 600,000, not 400,000.
Okay, thank you.
Hugh?
Yeah, I understood that, but the point that I was making, and I still feel, this is it's unkind to call it a slush fund, but there's no particular project on the horizon that I'm aware of. And money is building up that is sitting there. 600 is fine, and I guess I would add another 100, but I don't really see the reason why after this appropriation takes place, it'd be 800 sitting there with no particular project in mind. So I'm not sure what the mechanism here is, but I would move to add 100,000 rather than 200 to the acquisition fund, if that's appropriate.
Okay, Deborah?
Well, I have two things. Now I want to respond to Hugh, and I also have another question about the last slide that you had up, because I don't know if it was the right date for the funding numbers. I have a very different schedule that I reviewed. It looked like that was an old one. This says meeting at 2018. Why is it starting at 2018?
Because for some reason there were several pages. There is an FY26.
That's the one I was reviewing. Yeah. And these numbers didn't look familiar because the document I had that I had some questions on was not anything like this document, similar line items, but totally different dates. So I'll get back to that in a second because I do want to go through the 2026
Okay,
available funds document that was
Okay.
in the packet. Okay, so Hugh,
wait
just
a
to
second,
respond,
wait a second. We've already been through that. Now we got to look at this one project.
right,
Okay.
and I want to respond to Hugh's comment because I think
Okay.
the 200,000 that they're requesting is really a placeholder, so they have enough cash available to move on a project if something becomes available. And my thought is they should have as much as we can, allocate to them reasonably so they can act on something, because these meetings that we have are not that frequent. They don't get to have an allocation that frequently. So if they miss out on getting an allocation and then something comes along and they can't bid on it because they don't have the funding, then they won't be able to move forward on getting the housing created. The other comment I want to just make, it's more of a question. If monies are sitting in a reserve account for year after year after year and they're not used, is there a way to claw back if they don't find a project? Would that make us feel better about allocating? And then if they don't find something, can we claw it back? I don't know how it works with, once you do a reserve, is it locked in stone and you can't get it back?
Mhm.
Let me respond if I may.
Yes, Hugh.
I think the only project that's been done in terms of acquisition for years and years and years is Nokochoke Village. And these projects usually don't start tomorrow. You have to do something. There are thoughts, in this case, there's a request for a proposal, which we don't know how much is involved there. So that I'm weary to have a bunch of money accumulating with no particular project in mind on a theory something might come out of the blue tomorrow. Plus, you don't just buy them and do it. There is a combination usually of options or negotiations. Certainly, there's not be enough money to do a project. It's going to be in association with those who would finance it, other entities. It all takes time. So my feeling is something more to the fund, okay, but I think it's going to sit there indefinitely. So I'd rather keep the 100,000 that is not appropriated sitting as a reserve, which can be appropriated.
Who else had his hand up? There was someone, Dale.
Yeah, I agree with what Deborah was saying, and my memory is, over time, I haven't been a member for that long, but we've had this conversation, I think, numerous times. And that it wasn't just the two men that were here tonight, it was Liz, and other people would say that their stance is that they really do need to feel comfortable knowing that they can move on something really quickly before it gets lost. I don't know how to judge that. I also hear what you say, Hugh, about how all of these things take time. And so, but it isn't like they can just call us and say, can we have that $100,000 because something just came up? They have to wait for the process.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I do say, I don't say they're misleading us. That was not my point. We've been hearing that for years and years and years.
Right.
Okay, I just would like to say that there is an RFP out there right now.
Right.
And there has been a response. So if you think about the amount of land they're looking for, 600,000 is not very much money. 800,000 would be much better for them to be able to say, okay, we can pay you 800,000. They haven't given them any numbers, but they followed up because of some of our pushing by doing the RFP. I am the liaison to them, and I have attended the meetings, and I kept saying, you got to do an RFP. They take a long time to do these things because affordable housing is very complicated and bureaucratic. And so they had to follow very certain rules in order to do it, and they've done it. So I think that they have a response. I'm very excited about that. They didn't tell us what it is or anything yet, and I guess that's because there's going to be negotiation. But I would like to put the $800,000 in their hands. The answer to Deborah's question, yes, we do grant agreements every year with them, and we ask them to report. And we could say that, I'm sorry, but it's been 14 years and you haven't done anything. And then we won't give them any more money. Whether we can take it back or not, I'd have to look at the old grant agreements. I can't remember, to tell the truth, if that's in there. It is in some of the others, but working with an affordable housing trust is so different, technically different from working with nonprofits. Tim Gillespie?
Yeah, I would like to remind everyone, if they can remember this, that we had actually stated or recommended that they go for a big project. And one of the reasons that they put this in there as their big project was in response to comments from our committee.
Yes.
So if we start whittling down what they're asking for, I don't think it looks particularly good.
I also wanted to answer another question. Oh, yes, there's been another project than the Habitat for Humanity project is another project that where they have built a duplex. So there's those two major projects. The complexity of an affordable housing trust purchase of land, getting the financing for it takes a very long time. Deborah?
Yeah, just one more comment on what you just said that sparked a new question. When you said that you have a grant agreement when you do a grant, and these are new grant agreements every time, correct? So
yes,
why not consider in the next grant agreement, when we're getting to some threshold number where obviously Hugh's very uncomfortable with this level of cash getting allocated and then not being used, maybe we set some sort of a threshold after some amount is met and they've been granted, and then a period of time goes by and nothing's happened to get back down to a more comfortable allocation number, then it gets clawed back and it comes back to the general fund so that we can reallocate to some other projects. I mean, just so it's reasonable that they have lots of time, but not unlimited time.
We can do that, Deborah. We specifically can do that's one of the things that if you go to the Community Preservation Coalition website and look at theirs, that's discussed. How do you work with an affordable housing trust? Because we don't determine what they do we can't say that's a good project. We only allocate the money and then they use it. That's so different from every other project. Hugh.
Just remind us all that we have massive amounts of affordable housing hanging fire at the moment in connection with the MBTA, et cetera. And last I remember is it's in limbo because the SJC just said, yes, it's okay, but you need new regulations. However, the last regulations were, I think, we would have to permit 15 units per acre in the areas involved. Number of total units, at least at this point, unclear, but we were talking about number of acres in that category. That has nothing to do with the financing we're talking about, but it does have potentially an enormous issue on the affordable housing or the character of the town.
Anybody else? Any comments? Tim?
I'm afraid I think I have to leave the meeting.
Oh.
And I can leave this page up and leave it going, but I've got some obligations I have to attend to, and I didn't know we were going to go this late. You can survive without me, or do I need to be here for a quorum?
No, we have a quorum. If you have to go, but I would prefer you didn't.
Yeah, but
how much more time can you give us?
10 minutes.
Okay.
Can we vote?
Okay, so for this, let's just get through this one. So I would like to know if there's a motion on the floor. I think there is. No, there isn't.
No.
Is there, someone would take a motion to allocate, 200,000, $300,000, 300,000 total, to the Affordable Housing Trust without the change actually that, Hugh has recommended. Let's see if that gets through. Do I
I
have a
would like to
motion?
make that motion. I would like to make that motion. Dale Weber.
Okay, is there a
I would
second?
second that motion, Tim Gillespie.
Second that motion. Okay, let's, is there any further discussion right now or can we vote? Okay, let's vote. Hugh,
Hugh Morton abstain.
John,
John Bell is going to vote aye and leave it up to town meeting.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Kim Caton,
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. The second project is the Westport Grange. Do I have a motion?
Betty, I'm going to make a motion that we put all the remaining 5 projects together
Okay,
and vote.
let's try that. Anybody
move
want to
them as
try
is.
that? All right. You are recommending the funding as requested by all of the remaining projects, Westport Grange, Howland Hall, Youth Athletic Association, Recreation Committee, and the biking path, to go forward as a recommendation to town meeting.
I do.
Second that
Is-
motion.
Betty, that gives me a problem though, because I need to recuse myself as far as the recreation is concerned.
I think you can, how do we do that? I don't know.
Can we
Well,
just
if he
take that one
recuses
out?
himself
Do
from
the
the
other
whole
4?
thing,
Let's leave that one out for a moment.
Okay, right.
All right, other than the Recreation Committee. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Dale Weber.
Maria, did you get that? Did you understand that? Maria?
She's saying yes. She's not.
Oh.
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
did. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. It's been moved in second. We vote Hugh,
I to everything except the recreation.
well, we
Or
pulled that
abstain.
out. We pulled that out. We
Just to
pulled that
clarify,
out. We're gonna vote that separately. Aye.
I to the
John,
present motion.
John,
John Bell, aye.
Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton,
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Now we vote on the Recreation Committee for 250,000. Is there a motion?
So moved, Tim Gillespie.
Second,
Second, Dale Weber.
Bill Weber. Let's vote on that. Hugh?
Hugh Morton abstains.
Okay, John?
John Bell, aye.
Dale?
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah?
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton?
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie?
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark?
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade? Aye. That's unanimous. All of the motions have passed for recommendation to town meeting. I would like to see if we could have authority to the chair and vice chair to prepare the warrant article and fund sources
moved.
for projects.
Second,
So moved, Tim Gillespie.
Okay, let's vote. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
John,
John Bell, aye.
John, Dale,
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah,
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton,
Tim Caton, aye.
Tim Gillespie,
Tim Gillespie, aye.
Mark,
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Goodbye, Timothy Gillespie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I sent around the annual report.
Yes.
John prepared it and I edited it. And does anybody have any suggestions?
Nice job, guys, I think.
Okay,
I
thank
do.
you, Deborah?
I do. Yeah, I want to just use precise language on this report, and I feel like there's some discussion about how these percentages are calculated. A minimum of 10% of the total
Yes.
available funds each year. The
Yes.
term total available funds is confusing when you look at the report, because you don't know if it's estimated total available funds for 2026, which would be a different number, because that estimated is 2,001,650. 10% of that would be 200,000, not 100,000. So if we're going to say these numbers, we should refer back to an actual term on the other report that we're calculating this from. Otherwise, I feel like it's confusing where we're getting these numbers from. Is the term total available funds a capitalized term that can be referred back to on the list of available funds, like balance sheet that you have?
So what we do is we can only do it on the process of estimated funds. That's how we do it. But we always make the amount much larger. So it's never been the case where actual funds have been greater than, it's always at least 10% of actual funds. That's how it works.
Okay, so maybe it should be minimum 10% instead of, or required 10%, but it's not a calculated number. It's an estimate.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. That makes more sense, but it feels like it's supposed to tie back to something. And it
Let's
doesn't.
talk about that. I'd like to talk to you about that. I mean, anything we can do to make these reports better. These are the same exact words we've been using since 2002.
Okay, well, I'm new to this group,
but there's always a way to improve things. And I like your way of thinking. That would be very helpful. So we'll go through that. And I'll also go through with you the available funds table, because that's not simple either. And it has to do with the budgeted reserves versus actual reserves, and what happened at town meeting. So I could go through it one by one with you so you're comfortable with it.
Okay.
And if I'm
Sounds
right,
good.
I mean, I work with the accountant to do this normally. Okay, the last is review correspondence and notifications. I hope you all are looking at the notifications from the coalition, because there's interesting stuff that comes out of that. I think you're all getting it. Deborah, did you get that?
Yes.
You got it. Okay.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
there was just something about the church, the CPC awarded grant money to a church, and there was a lot of good discussion about why it was okay.
Okay.
As long as they didn't have religious iconography. So it was really relevant to what we're discussing.
And the list of bills, it's unfortunately, it's not up there, and I don't have anything with me in Texas. So Maria, could you tell us what the bills are?
Yep.
Are there many of them? I can't remember.
5.
Yeah.
5.
Not that many, really. If you want to hold on one second, let me get my file here. Okay.
I have it in front of me. You want me to read it out loud?
I have it. It's
okay.
Thank you. Granite City Electric Supply Company for the Sanford School. That's $1215.50.
Okay.
Granite City Electric Supply for the Sanford School, $609.84. East Bay Media, which is the publication for the public hearing, $61.50. Granite City Electric Supply for Sanford School, $92.40. And Troy Robello, who had a ton of receipts over the last couple, 2-3 years, whatever. This is
3 years.
reimbursement for mileage when he went to training, supplies that he purchased. He paid sales, just as a side note, I know Betty knows this, he paid sales tax on all of these items, which he cannot be reimbursed for. So the total for that
6%.
Yeah, the total for that was $4,616.20, and that spans at least 3 years, from what I understand, from what the accounting office tells me.
So Troy Rebello is, he and Todd Batista do the actual gravestone repair work. So this is the gravestone repair. And I've, through the years, been trying to get him to, he asked me, can I do this? Can I do this? Yes, yes. But please send in your receipts. And finally he did. And I've reviewed them and they're all appropriate. I don't know if you've heard, but they formed a private group called the TNT Gravestone, and they now have a contract with East Providence for a 17th century cemetery, and it was all over TV. I don't know if you saw that, but very, very popular. And there's actually, we've been asked to do 2 more interviews. This project in other towns is very happy, they like these projects. Dartmouth also has contacted me. They're asking for funding in Dartmouth from their CPC too. So we have those projects. Do I have a motion to approve, or are there any questions?
Move to approve, Hugh Morton.
Second?
Second, Dale Weber. I think that's my job today.
Correct. Yes, today. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
John?
John Bell, aye.
Dale?
Dale Weber, aye.
Deborah?
Deborah Chialfi, aye.
Tim Caton?
Tim Caton, aye.
Mark?
Mark Schmidt, aye.
Betty Slade, aye. That's unanimous. Is there any other business? Anything anybody wants to discuss? Okay, and the next meeting, we will definitely have a meeting. The Sanford School managers, there's a new one now. Paul Schmidt is replacing Tony Vieira as commander. So he's gotten involved with this project, and they're asking for some adjustments in the project. We're looking to see if that's possible, and we will discuss that at least at the next meeting. And if there's anything else that comes up, we'll let you know. Okay, wonderful meeting. Thank you very much.